If there is one thing that Benito Mussolini taught me, to never make the same error as him. He had miraculous success as long as he obeyed his Jewish mistress. The Chinese zodiac is the dragon, and she wanted to be identified as the biological mother of Dan, which makes sense because she gives birth to what Jacob calls a serpent, but also the dragon tribe. But her Chinese zodiac, the Margarita, the one whose name means pearl, her name means also daisy, actually, and I bought some daisies recently, red, white, and blue. But Gilead stayed beyond the Jordan, and Dan, why did he linger by the ships? Asher remained on the coast and stayed in the coves. You know, it was revealed to me by Meadow Jade today, my Messiah. She revealed to me, this is why, okay? Lieutenant Dan, you know, and me as Forrest Gump, we come here, we chant the names. I've chanted the names of all these men here and the Korean War memorials and stuff, and you know, the reason Queen Deborah, why Dan, the tribe of Dan, would actually leave in their boats and allow Queen Deborah to kick butt, for the same reason Gideon was not weak enough. He was already weak and he was pathetic, okay? But God wanted him to be as weak as possible, so the victory would be more epic. Well, the tribe of Dan was the, they were the reptilians, they were the judges, they were the, they were also the Navy too, okay? And as I was talking about, Pepsi is a drink that has red, white, and blue combined together like a yin and a yang, like the South Korean flag. And it was Pepsi that I felt was symbolic of that yin and yang balance of, instead of the Democrats fighting the Republicans, the John Kennedy and the dead Kennedys, he was a Democrat by name, but he defended everything that the Republicans and conservatives cherish, with the exception of he didn't like anyone to be bullied or left, you know, have to work extra hard and not be recognized based off of their ethnicity. Other than that, I mean, JFK was, you know, the conservatives who hate the Democratic Party passionately, like it's the worst thing that there ever was, actually will say John Kennedy was one of the best, if not the best, president America ever had, okay? Because, you know, he was a Democrat, you know, but he was a member of the National Rifle Association. He was a very fervent member of the National Rifle Association. Very few conservative presidents actually are, because that's an association that's got a very bad reputation these days with all the school shootings and things like that. And a lot of parents who have lost their children are very against the National Rifle Association. Another thing, John Kennedy was the first president to belong to a religious order that uses the symbol for fascism, and his name is actually John and Jack. Jack is an alternative for Jacob, which is the meaning of the name Mussolini. His wife, Jackie Lee Kennedy. Jackie Lee means Jacob and Leah. Rachel Mussolini, the wife of the founder of the Fascist Party, her name means Rachel Jacob, and Leah and Rachel were the brides of Jacob. But what people said the most important bride of Benito Mussolini was actually his Jewish mistress, and she was actually married to a man named Caesar, and yet she was considered the most important bride of a man who actually was a Caesar, but they just didn't have a sacramental marriage. But she was the one who was getting the Jews who were very skilled in the art of propaganda and you know, fascist propaganda artwork and the media, you know, getting the media on the side of the fascist party. But also she was very, very skilled at learning how to see in Benito Mussolini the perfect prefigurement and overshadowment of what Cyrus was as a messiah for the Jewish people. Because Benito Mussolini, his name means Blessed Jacob, middle name Andrea means Andrew, and he had another middle name which means devotee to I can't remember if it was Amilcar or something. Anyway, devotee to a certain type of deity that is like, if that deity were to actually exist, it would be the most important and powerful Hercules there ever was. As of now, Samson is the most powerful, by far the closest thing to Hercules, that no one comes 1% close to having the strength of Samson as Herculean strength, that of all the people that hundreds of millions of people actually believe existed, it's Samson. But there's another form of Hercules, and then there's the form of Hercules that one of Mussolini's middle names means a devotee of this form of Hercules. And he is a type of deity that is like, he is a deity of so many different things, as well as extreme brute strength that... Anyway, one of his devotees was Hannibal, not Hannibal Lecter, the cannibal of Silence of the Lambs, but Hannibal, Hannibal would pray to him and give and actually receive messages from him, and every one of his victories that and his rise to power, anything that was a success with Hannibal, which not everything was a success, but what was successful with him, he always attributed to this deity. The name of the deity is escaping me right now, but it was a type of Hercules, okay? And Hannibal was led away by this child, okay? And he was told, do not look back at what you are about, the destruction of Italy, okay? Kind of like the wife of Lot was told, do not look back at Sodom and Gomorrah. She looked back and she turned into a pillar of salt. And we all know that bath salts are a very addictive chemical, but salt can also, Jesus said, you are the salt of the earth. Salt can be a very good thing. We are supposed to be the salt of the earth. And there is a prison ministry in hell where you meet devils and demons where they are at, and they will do good deeds and stop tempting people and stop being angry if you give them the right reward. So if Jesus can turn water into wine, he can turn a pillar of salt into the best crystal method, smokable Tiberium. Tiberium, sun, the crystals, the precious green crystals that were funding both sides of the war and Command and Conquer, okay? So the reason Dan would stay in his ships, okay? The reason is he wanted to give the victory to a woman. If the tribe of Dan was not in those boats, they could attribute it to something other than a miracle. Also, Deborah means bee, okay? There's not a king bee, there's only queen bees. Occasionally the queen bees will fight and kill each other, but there's never, there's no need for a king bee with bees, okay? And there's really no need for a king in the game of chess either, because the queen can, do everything the king and the bishop and the pawn can do, and then of course the princess trumps and is the trump card that takes all the queens out on the table, whatever. But so what Dan would have wanted to do, Dan is a very female dominant religion, okay? The first creature that was a sea serpent, okay? And the tribe of Dan is not only a serpent, but they were the seafarers, they were the sailors, okay? They were the ones that were, they had the navy, okay? And Pepsi, why is Pepsi significant? The tribe of Dan would have supported Babel, okay? And Babel is where you try to get everybody on common ground, and you try to feed everybody the diet that is they have an appetite for, because light and darkness, red, white, and blue for the Democrats, red for the Republicans or the communists, whatever, all of these people, monsters or good people or whatever, and all these religions, they have something to offer that the other does not have to offer, okay? So Pepsi became the yin, the yang balance of red, white, and blue. The white would be Jonah, okay? Jonah means dove. Columbia also, and Columbine mean female personification of American government, which also means dove, okay? Columbine also includes flower, and the Virgin Mary is also represented by a dove and a flower, and there's a lot of Holy Spirits. There's not just one Holy Spirit, okay? And she definitely resembles a dove more than Jesus Christ or the Father. I mean, that's not even open for discussion. She doesn't promote genocide. She doesn't promote the narcissism, and she doesn't say, worship me or I'm going to burn you in hell for all eternity. That is not something that resembles a dove-like behavior, okay? So, the tribe of Dan, you know, JFK was said to go into the waters, okay? The beast comes out of the waters, okay? The sea of the dead, the sea gives up the dead, okay? The sea is considered like a dwelling place of the souls of the dead, okay? And it was Inanna, Ishtar, the woman, the female entity that, very similar, I suppose, to Jerusalem, depicted as a woman. Jerusalem, it says in Isaiah 66, is a woman. Oh, that you would nurse with delight at her abundant breasts, drink fully the milk of her comfort. She will rock you back and forth in her lap. She will fondle you. In Jerusalem, you will find your comfort. Imagine that, a government that fondles you. And I believe there are the cardinals, female Vatican, because I believed in a female Vatican before I saw this right here. Our Capitol building here is modeled after St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican. The Vatican was created by Benito Mussolini, and Rachel Mussolini said there is nothing she would rather throw a hand grenade at than the Vatican, and she said Mussolini would never use a gun, but he liked to use knives and sword dueling and stuff. But she said she was so angry because he created independent Vatican city-state. He served them better than the saints. The saints tried in vain to do a lot of the things that he did, and they were not able to do it, okay? And he was able to put crucifixes on the walls in public schools, and he was able to put Catholic prayer in public schools, but he was able to do it in such a way that he had Jews in the highest ranks of the fascist party that were actually supporting him, including his Jewish mistress, that were just as very, very likely the ones who played the largest role in a first world cradle of democracy falling, and someone without any votes and with a criminal record and with a very poor education who got kicked out of school, and who had no government experience and no qualifications, how he would become prime minister overnight. And Rachel just kept pinching herself, saying this is not even possible, because the March on Rome was intended, she thought, to just get the party to be more recognized and maybe get more people in seats and positions of power. But she didn't expect her husband to go from being a paper delivery boy, and then overnight he's the prime minister, unraveling democracy to become the dictator and create independent Vatican city-state and conquer Beta Israel and conquer Albania. So much did the Albanians want to join him that they were disassembling their own artillery and turning on their own people. That the conquest of Albania, which is a European country, from Benito Mussolini, it was conquered in, I believe, a week, no more than 2 weeks, anyways. And my birthday, April 11th, fell on one of those days. But I believe the war was over in like a week, if not a week, definitely 2 weeks at most. The war was over. And get this, the entire conquest of a European country left less than 200 casualties on both sides, okay? Usually in a battle, usually in just one single battle, you're going to have 200 casualties just on one side in a small battle. This was an entire war conquering a country where on both sides there were less than 200 casualties, okay? That is because the Albanians were so few of them wanted to oppose this guy, and the ones that did want to oppose him, their artillery has been disassembled by their own people, and their own people don't like them, so what's the point? So it's very rare that people are so eager to be invaded and colonized by somebody. So this guy must have been doing something right. Another thing you might want to consider, apparently he was doing something very, very right, and apparently he's not a monster. You want to know why? And he definitely, how could he be a misogynist? There was a woman who was, he saw her, he pitied her. He thought she's mentally ill. She shot him point blank in the head, trying to kill him, saying it's an act of God. And then she tried to shoot him in the head a second time, and the gun jammed, okay? So this was attempted murder on this man. And you know what? He let her out of jail without even charging her a charge as serious as a traffic ticket. All he told her was, please just leave the country, okay? Because he pitied the people that were scared. He pitied people that were troubled. He pitied the mentally ill. Because that happened, that wasn't the only time that happened, okay? There was another time a man shot at him multiple times, and the bullets were grazing his clothing, okay? And he saw how pale and shaky that man was. And he felt just as sorry for that man. And his first concern is, he's got a wife, he's got kids. Who's going to provide for his wife and children? And he wants... another thing he did, he kept families together, okay? Because he believed it's very, very important to have a nuclear family, okay? It's very, very important that your children can have a father figure to look up to know what it is like to imitate and look up to someone, to know what a man should be, how a man should behave, okay? And they should have, and especially women should have a mother to look up to. But actually, it's very important for a man to have a very responsible, a good mother figure to affirm him as well, because mommy issues can cause all kinds of Ted Bundy problems. You know, he was left abandoned at the Lund's house, and his mother only went and got him months later because she was forced to, and she lied about being his mother, and causing all kinds of problems. And then you combine that with pornography addiction. No wonder, man. But so yes, a responsible, good mother and father are so vital. He did not like to imprison his. He did not like to imprison his political enemies, not even the communists. And it was, in fact, one of the communists that he released as a political opponent from jail was actually one of the people that ordered his execution before trial. And the reason he did this is because last time they arrested him, some commandos came and they got him out of his prison, and he continued. He wasn't the same after that, though. He was a jokester after that. He didn't take fascism seriously. He didn't take himself seriously. When he was inspecting the troops of Adolf Hitler, he was imitating a woman in heat and making funny, silly noises and wiggling when he walks, like acting like somebody not worthy of respect, because he no longer felt like, that he was worthy of respect. He was a defeated man, and he had no respect anymore for who he had allied himself with. He told the Germans, he said, or he at least told Hitler, he said, I've got blood on my hands, and I'm going to pay dearly for this. And when Francisco Franco offered him a plane trip to fascist Spain, where he would have been a hero, and he was not guilty of any war crimes, okay? He declined, and he said, I will go when you have enough planes to fly all of the fascists to Spain. He said, I have done something very wrong, okay? He chose to ally himself with Hitler when it seemed like, with 100% certainty, he has won the war. Because He has an ally, the Soviet Union. America has not entered the war. He has a great ally, Japan. And what's Italy going to do? Because they've wasted their weapons and raw materials on the Spanish Civil War fighting the Soviets, and then Soviet-backed communists in Spain. But also, he was fighting a very costly war in Ethiopia because the Nazis allied themselves with his enemies in the Ethiopian Empire, which had already defeated the Italian Empire in the greatest victory, a defeat of a African nation against a European nation with modern weapons. Okay, and so he was in a crisis because France was falling. The Allies were not winning any victories, but originally he put troops on the border with Austria, and he told Adolf Hitler, he threatened Adolf Hitler, and he called upon America, Great Britain, France, anybody, please help me stop the annexation of Austria, because I have friends in Austria who are going to get killed if he annexes Austria. And it actually happened. Those people that he said would die actually did die. And then he went further to stall the annexation of Czechoslovakia. Did you know that Benito Mussolini did more to try and prevent World War II and keep world peace, and did more to oppose Adolf Hitler originally than Chamberlain or any other person on the planet? And you know what? He felt extremely betrayed, and because when the Russians attacked Poland, they were allies with the Germans, and he was furious because the communists are a much bigger threat. They are militantly atheists. Fascism was founded to defend religion, okay? And yet war is only declared on the side that is not militantly, intrinsically atheist, when the other side that is a bigger threat, that is getting the most benefit out of World War II, you know, Poland and Ukraine in Eastern Europe did not get to celebrate a victory after World War II because being occupied by militant atheists how is that any better, you know? Militant atheists who have an extreme hatred for your religion, whereas a lot of the Nazis actually did not have a hatred for the Polish religion because they belonged to the Polish religion. They had chaplains in their military that were the same chaplains the Polish would have in their military. So the country to benefit the most from World War II was this nation that was guilty of the same crime that caused people to declare war on Germany. Why didn't they declare war on the Soviet Union? That's what he wanted to know. And that was why he remained neutral as long as he could, eventually caving in and recognizing that I can either join the weak English and lose everything, or maybe I can grab some of this land. They're winning the Blitzkrieg. They're winning every single battle. The British have retreated to their island. America hasn't entered, and they have their ally is now Russia. So, I mean, he was basically in a life or death situation. And when you're facing a situation where it's like your house is being threatened and your children and your wife and everything, it's either do something that goes against your conscience or something very terrible happens to your household and everything and happens to you. People will sometimes do what goes against their conscience, and consequently that is why he chose to go join the wrong side of that war and is forever despised, hated, misunderstood because of it. Which makes me want to so fervently defend this historical figure, because it is so opposite of what people think. God bless.